You know what's interesting, Mason? According to the Academy of...
You didn't let me guess.
Do you know what's interesting?
According to the Academy of...
Do you want me to finish this off?
Academy of...
Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Music.
No.
Academy of Music. Bruce Springsteen sold a lot of albums.
That is true, actually. Yeah.
That's interesting, right?
But also, on a related note,
that's my most current reference, by the way, Bruce Springsteen.
According to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the American Film Institute and the British Film Institute, a feature film runs for more than 40 minutes, while the Screen Actors Guild asserts that a feature's running time is 60 minutes or longer. Why do you think I bring that up, Mason?
You brought that up because we have recently watched the DC animated movie, Batman: The Killing Joke, which runs a brisk an hour and 10, maybe something like that.
So it runs an hour 26.
Huh?
But
go on.
There's a lot.
Some would argue that's the perfect length for a movie. What, 86 minutes? Actually, that's too short.
I feel like. Yeah, you need to hit a certain requirement for a film, right?
Okay,
in terms of length. And The Killing Joke...
Otherwise, it's just a novella.
Exactly. And The Killing Joke in itself, it's a pretty tight story. So I guess their options were to tack a story onto the front of it, extend the whole Killing Joke to make it like an hour and a half, or do you make it 15 to 20 minutes, or do you not do it at all?
Yeah, I hope you were going to provide that to me. Otherwise, I would have had to insert it there for... Look, I'll give credit to this thing. In that hour and 27 minutes, there's a lot of stuff. Like they put a lot of plot into this. But the fascinating part about it, as you've alluded to there, is because The Killing Joke, the comic book storyline, is quite brief, they just had to add their own fanfic at the start. There's like 20 plus minutes of fanfic where Batgirl just goes after this rando guy, just this rando criminal. And I spent most of it going... Because this is the first time I've seen this. I spent most of this going, have they changed? This guy has a sort of a smirk to him. He has a widow's peak and a smirk. And I'm like, are they going to make this guy the Joker? Is that what's going to happen here?
Yeah.
Is Batgirl going to have this animosity with this villain and he's going to end up, swimming through the Axis or Ace chemical plant and turn into the Joker and he'll be her arch nemesis, but no, he's just some guy.
That's what I find really bizarre about it, because it sort of sets it up like he's her Joker because he knows how to push her buttons and all of that. Also, her characterization, way fucking off.
Oh, it's awful.
All terrible stuff, and we'll come around to that. Oh yeah, this is Caravan of Garbage. Please leave a like. But I think also he's not interesting visually or tactically. His personality is really standard mobster stuff. Yeah, he's basic. He's basic. He's nobody.
He's not a costumed villain. Doesn't have any powers.
And he doesn't have to be any of those things if his personality is interesting.
Oh, he's got hacking skills.
Everybody's got a hacking skill, Mason. Everybody. Even Hawkeye has an arrow that does a hacking skill.
No, James, you're thinking of hacky sack skills. We've all got those. We don't all have hacking skills.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right, yeah. But I don't hate the idea of doing a lead-up to The Killing Joke.
Well, it needs something, I guess. If this is intended to be a standalone movie, I guess we need some context. Or do we? Because Batman and Batgirl,
we get it at this
they're
point.
iconic characters. We get it. We don't need to be like, well, actually, Batman he fights crime in Gotham and he's pretty good at it. And sometimes he's got a sidekick and they're a new sidekick. So I guess you don't... What are we doing?
I don't know.
Right?
And I think also the idea to expand her role from what she does in The Killing Joke, which is basically just get shot and have photos taken of her in horrible lewd positions. Like the idea to expand that character and make her more compelling and give her more agency and more personality and more anything, that makes sense to me. But this is the opposite of that.
Yeah. It would make more sense if... Her initial sort of action outing in this was her putting the Joker in prison. That would be better instead of a rando.
And instead of having sex with Batman.
Yeah, if we're going to talk, the comic book version, whichever version you pick, that's not part of the characterization at all. But what they've done here is they've gone, what if we made her very intensely obsessed with Batman?
Yeah. And she has a best friend that she goes to, and he's like, ooh, your Pilates instructor. Ooh, you're going to kiss him? Ooh.
Right.
And she's like, well, it's not like that because it's actually Batman, but I can't tell you anything about that. Yuck! It's gross, Mason!
It is gross, yeah.
And also, that dynamic is all wrong Because there's obviously a power dynamic. They wouldn't have Batman have sex with Dick Grayson, for example, right?
Correct. Despite what everybody on the internet and in pop culture has been saying for multiple decades, they wouldn't actually have that happen.
Because it just shows that he's a terrible person and she's a terrible judge of character. And then she's crying to him over the radio. I'm just like, why can't we go back to the way it was? He's like, I'm Batman. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do anything.
I'm gonna fight crime.
It's on a roof as well. I mean, he does all this stuff on a roof, doesn't he?
That's true, yes.
Well, producer Bruce Timm, who's one of the producers on this, he defended the idea of adding in a Batgirl subplot, which again, I don't have a problem with, but specifically of her being intimate with Batman because of how he always saw them as having a sexual chemistry, especially from watching the Adam West Batman television show.
Oh. No, there was no sexual chemistry on the Batman
I mean, everybody knows where the chemistry was in that show, Mason.
That's right.
It absolutely was not there.
It was Alfred and Aunt Harriet.
Yeah, exactly.
And Commissioner Gordon and Chief O'Hara.
Yes. And Bruce Wayne and Batman when he was pretending to have a phone conversation with himself.
What are you wearing? Oh, a Batman costume. Intriguing.
Also, in response to the criticism of this prologue, Brian Azzarello, who wrote this, he stated, the thing about this is that it's controversial, so he added more controversy. And I don't think it being controversial is what makes The Killing Joke good. I'm not like, oh, he shot Batgirl through the spine. That's what I love about this story, how controversial. Like, I think the elements of the story that works is more the dynamic between the Batman and the Joker.
Yes.
And I think when we finally get to that final showdown and it's just Kevin Conroy and just Mark Hamill just spitting the dialogue at each other, that's...
Well, it's interesting. Like, it's interesting. We everything about this has great elements to it, and in theory, it could be good. I like Brian Azzarello, and I like Bruce Timm. You know, Bruce Timm, of course, being one of the kind of authors of the Batman animated universe. Not this one specifically, although this one specifically, but more famously the Batman the animated series and the DC AU.
Yeah,
overall, and we get the classic Batman and Joker voice actors in Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill.
Yep.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, the pieces did not fit together there, I don't think.
No.
And also, like, even visually, the original Killing Joke, illustrated by Brian Boland, like, they've gotten the broad strokes of it correct in this, but what they seem to have done is they've put that weird grey sheen over everything.
Yes.
Like, as was trendy for... Like, they sort of attempted to kind of make it mesh with whatever DC AU animated art style they were working with at the time. So it's not the Batman the animated series or the Justice League cartoon. It's that whatever they were up to, New 52 or Rebirth or whatever it was. They were like, okay, let's make everything grey and put seams on all the costumes. It doesn't. The flashbacks where we see, the man who is to become the Joker, it just has that weird sepia tone to it. But it's like, that's not how it looked in the comic books. And also, the flashbacks make it look like that was happening in, like, the 50s.
It's bizarre,
But it happened, like, a week ago or whatever.
Yeah, there's a YouTube channel called
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Joking, but you know what I'm saying, right?
I get what you mean, yeah. But there's a YouTube channel called Plan Making Mammals. And it's just, like, a few clips. But this channel has basically recolored it to look more like the comic book.
Oh.
And it's not perfect because you're using also the art style that was in the animated version, but just the idea of having the color palette closer to what it is in the comic. Like, it's a bit more garish and there's upsetting, like, clashing colors happening. The Joker's outfit, in contrast to his skin and all of that, it works much better. And I just wish maybe one of the things they could have done is just do it more like the comic. They also outsourced this.
I guess we could read the comic.
Sure, well, yeah. But they also outsourced it to Japan, to a Japanese animation company to do this. So I guess they were just like, just do it something like this, I guess.
Okay,
and
right.
This is what we ended up with. Do you notice a bit when Batman throws one of those little guys down into a spike pit? He's fighting all those circus freaks and whatever, and he's just like, whoop, just straight into the pit, mate. But again, that bit at the end where it's just Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, and they've been doing it for so long, they've absolutely nailed the voices, the mannerisms, and all of that at this point. They're not doing the mannerisms, you get the idea.
I think they probably are. I think they probably are in the booth.
They probably are, yeah.
I reckon Kevin Conroy's probably pulling his cowl up. he's flipping the cape like it's a set of bat wings.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
That being said, though, I feel like, and we watched something subsequent to this, or we watched something directly after this.
Maybe some bonus stuff.
And I think they seem a little bit flat in this. I'm not. I gotta say, and maybe I'm bringing my own biases into this, but it kind of felt to me like they were not super into this.
Yeah,
they were like, I'm not feeling this. Like, you ever hear Peter Cullen do the voice of Optimus Prime in any of those Michael Bay Transformers movies? I know you do. Yeah. But there's a lot of like, I'll murder you, and it feels like he's like, I'm reading this. Am I?
I'm out of breath.
Yeah.
I'm Optimus Prime. I'm out of breath.
I'll kill you, Fraser Crane. I'll kill you. I'll kill you as easy as breathing. Bang.
That's my favorite bit, though, all those movies. But I guess also one of the things it does, do well is leaves the ambiguity at the end of whether or not Batman actually kills the Joker.
Okay, sure.
I know a lot of people, including comic creators like Grant Morrison, have said, no, that's actually what happens. But if you go back to Alan Moore himself, and I've got a quote here, that's not what happens at the end of this.
Oh.
And I also, of course, want to get into what he thinks of... We'll talk about it.
All right, great.
The Killing Joke in general.
Okay. But also, what's interesting about this is they couldn't even leave this on the idea that this was meant to be controversial and it's a real downer ultimately. If I were to describe The Killing Joke, I'd call it a real downer.
Okay, sure.
I've never been a huge fan of it, despite the talent involved. But
Yeah.
they couldn't even leave that and go, well, look, we're just looking at a grim, dark, horrible insight of the human psyche. They had to add a post-credit sequence where Barbara Gordon's just like, yeah, I'm Oracle now.
Yeah.
I'm back. I'm back in the saddle. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
You guys know me.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is what he said about Batman killing in this. My intention at the end of the book was to have the two characters simply experiencing a brief moment of lucidity in the ongoing, very weird and probably fatal relationship with each other, reaching a moment where they both perceive the hell that they are in and can only laugh at their preposterous situation. Definitively solved, Mason, but maybe also art grows beyond the artist, etc. Just like the way that this interpretation has grown well beyond what, say, Alan Moore wanted at the time.
Sure, absolutely. That's right, yes.
Should we do some green trivia then?
We should do some green trivia. Here's a little bit of green trivia for you.
Is it the Rodney supercut?
Yes. But here's a second piece of green trivia. When Batman looks up at the Joker's various misdeeds on his Bat computer, we see a little picture of Robin, presumably the Jason Todd Robin that he killed, except that's out of order.
Yeah.
Because in the comic books, A Death in the Family takes place canonically after the Killing Joke.
Correct.
I mean, maybe not canonically, because that would suggest that Batman killed the Joker, and then he wouldn't be around to kill Jason Todd in A Death in the Family. So
different
you know
continuities.
what? Just forget I said anything. Don't worry about it. I'm saying they were published.
I get what you're saying.
Order.
Publishing dates, Mason. And did you know that this was the first Batman movie to carry an R rating in the US of A?
Ooh,
yeah.
But the R rating in Australia is different from the R rating in America.
Well, that is true. You saying that theirs is weak as piss, as we'd say here in Australia?
I would say it's weak as piss. Yeah, lift your game. R rating in the US.
Yeah, even though sometimes we don't get video games because of our terrible rating systems here.
Because a character takes a vitamin or something, and they're like, can't have that.
No. After the release of Batman Arkham Knight 2015, Mark Hamill stated that due to the strain it put on his vocal cords, he would never voice the Joker again unless Batman the Killing Joke was adapted into film. Oh. Mark Hamill even said at one point that he'd continue to voice the Joker for as long as Kevin Conroy voiced the Batman, but obviously all that is up in the air as of right now because of the recent passing of Kevin Conroy, which that sucks.
Yeah, 66 years of age, too young, absolute legend. For most people, I would say the voice of Batman.
Agreed. Mark Hamill's involvement in this actually also led to the working title of this film being Blue Harvest, due to his involvement in the original Star Wars from 1977, which, Mason, was also called Blue Harvest. Working title, obviously.
That's wonderful.
Isn't it?
Wonderful piece of trivia.
One more bit of trivia here, Mason. Green trivia. Mark Hamill admitted at a Q&A at Star Wars Celebration...
Oh, he admitted it!
He admitted it!
Oh
we got him on record!
Yeah, what is it, though?
At a Star Wars Celebration in 2016, that while he wasn't disappointed with the final outcome of the film, he wasn't completely satisfied as he'd hoped he'd be. He stated he had originally intended and would have preferred to have completed the story as an audiobook, not a full animated feature. I think there you still come up against... Like, do you make it a 20-minute story?
Yeah.
But I think, maybe that you let your mind take the seams off the clothings and whatever do the color palette. Anyway, the budget for this, a paltry Mason, $3.5 million, and it made, in its very limited theatrical release, $12.3 $3 million worldwide. And also the total US home video earnings for this as of 2018 was $8.6 million. So considering the budget and, you know, it's still available and, you know, you can still purchase it and whatever.
Runaway success.
Yeah.
Let's make another one. Killing Joke 2.
That's why they do these. But what does Alan Moore think?
Killing Joke 2, just Batman dragging the Joker's corpse around because he killed him at the end of this.
I killed him already.
That's right. Let this be a lesson to the rest of you criminals.
I accidentally glued my hand to him though. That's why I carried him around. My bat glue went off.
That's right.
Damn it. Sucks now.
Some people say I should just take the glove off, but I glued the glove to my hand earlier, an earlier incident.
The Joker was always like, "You'll never get rid of me, Batman, even if you killed me." And he was right, because I glued myself to him. I'm an idiot. But what does Alan Moore think?
I love this new guy. Our new character. Batman is gluing himself to things.
But what does Alan Moore think, Mason?
I think he probably loves this one.
Well, he's never seen it as far as we know,
Okay.
but he does have thoughts of the original Killing Joke.
There should be a sticker you can just put on new DC releases that just says, it's just a quote from Alan Moore that says, "I didn't see it, but I hate it."
I never really liked my story of the Killing Joke. I think it put far too much melodramatic weight upon a character that was never designed to carry it. It was too nasty, it was too physically violent. There were some good things about it, but in terms of my writing, it's not one of my favorite pieces. If, as I said, God forbid, I was ever to write a character like Batman again, I'd probably be setting it squarely in the kind of smiley uncle period where Dick Sprang was drawing it and where you had Ace the Bat-Hound and Batmite and the Zebra Batman when it was sillier. Because then it was brimming with imagination and playful ideas. I don't think the world needs that many brooding, psychopathic Avengers.
That's very interesting. And Alan Moore, if you are watching this, and you are not, I'd just like to think we have provided the perfect opportunity. If you would like to, again, take a shot at Batman, may we suggest Batman who glues himself to things? Just a bit of lighthearted fun, you know?
Oh no, it's both hands now!
Hands, my hand can't swing from the rooftops.
What's the thinking? Anyways, do you want to do a mini bonus Caravan of Garbage right now, Mason?
Yeah, I do.
We've got a lot of comments about this, and of course we were never going to miss it.
That's right, but we thought we'd do a bit of a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
After this, whatever this was.
This whole thing. It's actually an adaptation, animated, a Superman story called For the Man Who Has Everything. Now, this, of course, was an Alan Moore comic from the 80s, which was adapted in 2004 in Justice League Unlimited, Season 1, Episode 2.
Opening with a big gun.
That's right, yeah. So Alan Moore actually somewhat sort of worked on this, had some suggestions which made it into this.
Interesting.
So author's permission stuff. He allowed Bruce Timm, who also worked on this, and his team to actually use his name, like credit his name in this, which he'd stopped doing by around this time. And there's a number of changes, but seemingly he was happy with all of them, including that Jason Todd is in the original comic.
That's right.
And is the one to save Superman at the end for the rest of the comic going, I don't know, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I hate being Robin.
I'm badly outclassed and I'm wearing little underpants.
It's in the snow as well. I've glued myself to... I saw Batman glue himself to the Joker. I just thought I'd do it. Anyway, what did you think of this?
I thought it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you know, it's
22 minutes, which it should be.
That's exactly right. It's got all the classic elements, and we got all the classic DCAU voice actors there, obviously, including Eric Roberts as Mongol, who I thought was great.
Really good,
Tremendous,
yeah.
Right?
And great fight between him and Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's just severely outclassed, but just buying Batman time.
Yeah.
And just gets into Superman's armory and is just like, I'm just going to use a bunch of his weapons and see what happens.
Why does Superman have all these? What's he doing with them?
What is he doing with them?
Yes, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, some changes were made. I think in the original comic book, it is Batman who presents Superman with his birthday gift, which is a beautiful new strain of rose that he's created. Whereas in this, he's just like, I get him cash. I don't know.
I'm rich. I get him cash.
I get it. But yeah, so for people who haven't seen it, Batman and Wonder Woman arrive at Superman's Fortress of Solitude to give him some gifts for his birthday, only to find that he's opened a present from an alien, and it's glued itself to him. Yeah. In the style of in the style of a certain other superhero we might know, and is worthy of an adaptation, I think. And it's a plant that attaches itself to a victim, and then it enters their brain, and it provides them their deepest fantasy, meaning they will no longer want to exist in the real world.
Yeah.
And so they have to snap him out of it. It initially is on Superman, but then it later ends up on Batman. And Superman's fantasy is that he is on the world of Krypton. He's actually grown up there. It wasn't destroyed.
Yeah.
And he now has a family, has a wife who seems to be some sort of combination of Lana Lang and Lois Lane, and he's got a son, and his father's still alive, and he's got the Krypton. He's got Krypto the dog, and it's a perfect life. But really, is it? And then Batman's fantasy, which I enjoyed quite a bit, is that rather than look, it's the retelling of the classic Batman origin story. He's a child, and he and his mother and father are leaving the movie theater, and they're confronted by Joe Chill, the mugger.
Voiced by Kevin Conroy, by the way.
There you go. And also, if I'm remembering correctly, Joe Chill's only appearance in the DCAU. You never see him again.
Yeah.
Rather than Joe Chill killing his parents, Thomas Wayne actually forces the gun out of Joe Chill's hand and then beats him up for a really, really long time.
That's Batman's
I love
special
that.
place.
We just keep going back to it. Just like that's just rather than a beautiful family and a world he's never known. Just his dad just beating this guy for eternity, perhaps.
And Batman's not glued to a single thing, is he?
Well, his eyes are glued to this wonderful spectacle.
You're right, absolutely. I also love the idea that Mongol, he thinks that Superman, well, he doesn't, you can't see what anybody else is experiencing, but he just assumes that Superman is just ruling the world.
Yeah, right.
Because that's obviously what he wants. And one of the changes that also makes from the comic is Superman's dad, because he was wrong about Krypton exploding, becomes some kind of fascist leader, which is very on brand for Alan Moore. Yeah. And they remove that element entirely.
There's more of a Civil War kind of aspect to it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But in this, he's just an old crank.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'm so sad. I got that thing wrong.
People hate me.
And I've Kryptonian glued myself to this end table. Son, help. We don't have super strength here. We're just regular.
And I also think that in Superman coming out of that, he'd just never get over it. I just think it would do such psychological damage to you that he's so mad that he experienced this wonderful thing, something that he always wanted, and he had to literally pry himself out of it.
See, I like to think that Superman would be like, well, that was nice, but here I've got
mates.
I got mates. I got Lois Lane.
I got cash.
I got cash, baby. Hell yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But maybe, of course, on Krypton, he doesn't have to pretend he's a nerd.
Well, that's true. He can just straight up be a nerd?
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong, yeah. But what does Alan Moore think, Mason? Which has been the question we've been asking this entire run.
That's right.
We've
got matching bracelets made. WWAMT.
Very good. Now, according to Bruce Timm and Dwayne McDuffie, Alan Moore confided that he was, in fact, pretty pleased with the result of this episode. So second and now third-hand information.
Oh, my God.
That Alan Moore he thought it was all right.
Put that sticker on the DVD.
That's as good as you're going to get as
right?
well.
Yeah.
So this is an absolute win. It might also be the best adaptation of all of his work.
Yeah. Yes, certainly possible.
Yeah. I'd be interested to know what other people think, though. What do they think is the best thing that's been adapted? I know a lot of people have said Watchmen or V for Vendetta, but I think this is definitely up there.
Do you think anyone should attempt to adapt any more of his work? What about Top 10, which is a police procedural set in a city where everybody has superpowers?
Yep.
That's pretty exciting. Would they ruin it? Absolutely, they would ruin it. Could they adapt that run of Rob Liefeld's Supreme?
Oh,
where Rob Liefeld said, "Hey, Alan Moore, can you do a run on my weird Superman pastiche Supreme?" And Alan Moore said, "Yeah, but I'm going to throw out everything. I'm going to throw out everything you've done and start again completely." And Rob Liefeld was like, "All right,
cool,
I guess."
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, because this is obviously not going to be the end of Alan Moore adaptation. There's always a Watchmen something brewing.
Should they adapt his 1,000,000-word novel or whatever it was?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
why not? See if you can compress that.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Compress it into 22 minutes, see what you can do. Anyways, thank you so much for coming along on our Alan Moore-athon, Mason. It's been quite a ride.
You're very welcome. I mean, I had to, didn't I?
Yeah, you did, yeah. Much like Alan Moore was forcefully involved in all of this. You had to come along here. But if you would like to see any of these early, including what's happening next week at Caravan of Garbage, and here's a hint, you can now see that at bigsandwich.co a day early, can't you, Mason?
Yes.
I'm very excited to come around to whatever that thing is that was shown up on the screen. If you do have any suggestions for anything for us to watch, read, listen to, please leave it below. Also, I didn't mention, if you do want to see that early, and if you... I'll fuck this up. Where am I in this? Hang on.
You've already said the big sandwich thing.
Did I say it?
Yeah.
Okay, fuck. All right, Mason. All right, here we go. Here we fucking go.
Oh, yeah.
Also, at Big Sandwich, there's bonus podcasts, movie commentaries. There's a bunch of exclusive behind paywall stuff, Mason.
Hell yeah.
That we will never let you see unless you give us money.
That's right. Videos of us gluing ourselves to things.
That's right. Or you can just stick around on our channel here or check out our podcast, The Weekly Planet, where we talk movies and comics and TV shows.
It's all free. Enjoy.
That's all free. All right, thank you so much to Lawrence and Ben for the edit.
Thanks, guys.
And we'll see you on the next time.
Grab that jam, you guys. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
James, I've glued myself to this YouTube video.
Oh, no, Mason.
I'm flapping my hand wildly. It's not coming
It's
off.
not coming off.